Mike, man, thank you so much for joining me. Mike Zone is for those of you that are just tuning in, Mike Zone's a great friend of mine. We were teachers together in Harlem, and really just a dear friend of mine, kind of one of those guys that's always been there for you. So the other piece, Mike, is that, you have shown that at your age, because you're older than me. Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 53.
Okay, so I'm 51. And you're in fantastic physical condition, but in addition to that, you're also a counselor, psychologist, resilience coach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, so I'm kind of blessed, really, because what I got is I'm in a predicament where I have a high level of calcium in my heart.
Okay.
Last
Well,
10 years, it's
yeah.
gone up a lot.
Yeah.
If you have the line that's kind of like, okay, here's low risk. If you're above this line, I'm like there.
Mm,
And here's high risk. I'm a little bit above it.
right.
And I want to reverse that.
Yeah.
Also, I am getting older and I don't want to be frail and fragile. I don't want to be a victim. I want to be able to defend myself. I want to be strong.
Yeah.
But I know who I am, and I'm kind of struggling with this thing where I've just been doing this for 51 years.
Yeah.
My heart, I've desired to be in better shape. My mind is in the right place.
Yeah.
I'm going to go work out today, and it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And I know it's important to your life that you get out and work out every day. So just with that being said, what's your thoughts on all that? That's kind of a big giant load there.
Yeah. No, you're not alone. Yeah. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I have a background in counseling and social work, and education and coaching. And I had to ask myself the same questions you did. I fortunately did not have a medical issue hanging over me, but that certainly can impact. Sadly, unfortunately, those things can be motivating sometimes, right? The fear, of course,
Absolutely.
yeah, and we don't want to be fear-based, right? We don't want to be pushed towards it. We want to be pulled towards something, right? And so coming up with reasons why we want to do something is really important. So when I coach people, or even when I counsel people, one thing that I do, Mark, is I differentiate between motivation and procrastination. They're not the same, they're different. So when we procrastinate, there's a reason why we want to do something. Now, it could be for our health. It could be because our boss will fire us if we don't. I mean, there could be we have to, pay the government on April 15th, whatever it is. But there is a reason, and we know what that reason is, and we just have a hard time doing it. That's procrastination. A motivation issue is we don't even know why we're doing it. We don't even have the motivation, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. There's no motivation. So one thing that a person can ask themselves is, why do I want to do this? Right? And you've mentioned that there's a medical issue. Now, that is more of a fear-based motivation.
Correct.
Right? That's pushing you towards something, rather than pulling you towards something. And that's okay. I mean, any motivation can be helpful, but ideally we want to be pulled towards something. So that's the first thing that I wanted to just share with you and the viewers, that there is a difference between procrastination, when we have a reason, we just can't get ourselves to do it. And what's that about? That's procrastination.
Right.
And we don't even have a reason in the first place. So then which is motivation, then we need a reason to do it. Okay.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that was something that I just wrote down as you were talking. I don't like the idea that the motivation is a negative, that it's kind of like, well, I risk a heart attack if I don't get off the couch, kind of thing.
Right.
Well, Mike, would you consider the desire to be just physically stronger for a time of trouble? Maybe somebody breaks in your house, you're defending your family, like, just, because again, that we're not necessarily, it's harder as you get older.
Yes. Yeah.
So, would that be a good factor? Like, what do you
Yeah.
think about that? Like, what
Yes.
would be a good reason, like a motivating factor that you'd say that's a good motivating factor?
Yeah. So I think there are many reasons. I think the most common I think we can all relate to is when we're younger, we tend to want to work out for aesthetic reasons because we're trying to attract a mate. And that's basically what, right? And that's why young people
Sure.
work out. You know, you'll hear young people, yeah, well, I want to be fit, and yeah, if they're athletic, they do, but they want to meet girls and guys. That's why a lot of people, work out when they're younger.
Sure.
And that's okay. And that's okay, right?
It's a good
Um,
motivational factor.
Yes, it is absolutely right for sure. And also again, if they're athletic and they're part of a sports team, that certainly can be pulling. But I think you raise a good point, which is imagine what you want to be able to do in the future. So it's not just exercising for the sake of exercising. If you can project yourself in the future, you want to be able to hold and run around with grandkids. You want to be able to fix things around the house. You want to be able to travel. So you kind of project in the future things that you want to be able to do so you can live a longer, healthier, happier life. And that's what's pulling you in that direction. Because if you say, well, yeah, I want to be in good shape. Okay, yeah, but for what? Why
Mhm.
do you want to be in good shape? Well, I just want to have more energy. Well, that's okay. That's actually good too. But why? What is the purpose behind wanting these things? And so I think everyone needs to ask themselves that question, or would be helpful if they ask themselves that question. What am I doing this for? Okay. So when you think about it, other than avoiding a heart problem, which again is okay,
Mhm.
but what are you doing this for? What do you see yourself wanting to be able to do in 1, 5, 10 years?
So something that we talk a lot about on this channel is we look at prophecy, and I believe we're living in a time where we could see some very difficult times. Let's just say
Mhm.
some biblical type stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't really feel like if my car broke down and I had to walk home from the grocery store that I do all that well right now.
Right.
Especially if I was carrying things like groceries or so, so well, fast forward 10 years, if there is a season in this country where, we're doing without luxuries, maybe we're having to defend ourselves for whatever reason. Maybe it's, there things that are real easy to get now are suddenly hard to get. So you got
Right.
to work hard for the simple things.
Right. Right.
There's no way I'm ready for that. I'm not
Right.
even kind of ready for that, to be quite honest.
Right.
And that is, outside of my health, that is the piece that I'd like to be 80 years old and be able to hike up a giant mountain if necessary.
Right. So you want to be self-sufficient. You want to be resilient. You want to be independent for as long as you possibly can, and be able to rely on and depend on yourself, and not necessarily to the exclusion of others. We need each other, but you want to be able to be in the best shape you can to deal with as many adversities as show up, right? And be in a good position. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
exactly.
So that in and of itself, and if you can you literally picture yourself in your mind's eye being in the shape and condition and doing things that you would like to be able to do, walking 4 or 5 miles, carrying something, going up a mountain, farming, hunting if you needed to, whatever you need to do to give yourself that confidence and self-assurance. Can you picture that and see yourself doing that in the future?
I definitely can. Yeah, I
Right.
absolutely can picture it because part of that, and I've shared this with you and I've shared it with viewers, but I'll just mention here as part of it is it's not just working out. It's also, I'm taking a jujitsu class
Mhm.
now. I'm doing a lot of firearms training, um, just some general self-defense with knives and guns kind of thing. So I'm trying to not just be in great shape, but be prepared if necessary.
Well,
I
yes,
would, I could picture myself as a very strong, able-bodied 65, 70-year-old. Yeah.
right, yeah.
Mhm.
And you know, look, I think that, you know, you mentioned particular things that you're concerned about, and I think it's good to have clarity on what you're looking for. But I would say, Mark, that whatever the issue is, even if a person just said, "I want to be able to hold my grandchildren when I'm 80,"
Absolutely. Mhm.
that is a goal, right? I want to be able to walk and not have to have a walker or a cane, because I want to be in the best shape I can be. I want to be able to work in my garden. All of those, I want to be able to enjoy nature, and you know, nature is there's rocks and hills, and you got to kind of maneuver. That's not flat ground, but I want to be able to
Right.
enjoy and appreciate nature, and I want to be in the best position I can. And again, if there are greater adversities that may come, you also want to be prepared for that. But seeing yourself and imagining yourself doing it and feeling good about doing that, that can be what pulls you. So it's not just fear that pushes a person, but a positive that pulls you as
Mhm.
well. Um,
Yes.
and you know, another thing to think about when you're not feeling motivated or this procrastination, Mark, is there a positive intent to not doing it? Right. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, and I'm going to use something a little different here. Let's say a person wants to be social and go out and meet people, but they never do. And you think, well, that doesn't make sense. You know, you say you want to meet people, but you're not going out and meeting people. What could be the positive intent? Well, they don't want to be rejected. That's the fear. They don't want to be rich. So there is an intent to not doing what you say you want to do. I'm protecting myself so I don't get hurt. Now, is that worth not going out? I would say no. You got to take the risk and go out so you can meet people. But there is a reason why very often we're not doing what we say we want to do. And it's important to acknowledge that. So maybe there's some, when you're not going, maybe it's because you don't have the energy to do your videos. Maybe it's less time with your family. Maybe, you know, maybe doing it is an acknowledgement something might be coming, and it is a little scary to acknowledge it. There may be some positive intent behind not doing what you say you want to do, and to
Mhm.
at least acknowledge that. Now, it doesn't mean give into it, but acknowledging, basically, it's not beating yourself up. I say I want to work out, and yet I don't work out. Oh, I'm so weak. I can't. No, no. There may be reasons why you're not pulled. Acknowledge it. Don't give into it, but at least acknowledge that there is a reason for your reluctance or hesitation or lack of motivation.
Mhm. I think for me, because as you were talking, I was trying to reflect, well, what is it, that keeps me? Because like in the morning, it's usually because, I'm enjoying a nice hot cup of coffee. I'm looking out the window. I'm kind of maybe catching up on the news. I don't want to work out.
Right.
And then and then then I get to work. I get into the next thing and the next thing. And then in my head, well, when I'm done working, I'm going to go, then I'll go work out. But
Right.
when you're done working,
Right.
it's the last thing you want to do.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's more, I'm just enjoying the moment more,
Yes.
not working
Yes.
out, if that makes sense.
Yes. Especially if your job is very demanding, and whose job isn't demanding.
Hmm.
Um, the idea that you have some quiet time in the morning to look out the window, to enjoy it, at the end of the day, to unwind. Yes, I think there are very good reasons to not work out and put in the effort. The question then is the reasons for doing it, like almost like a pro con? There are both. There are pros and cons to waking up early and going to the gym, or running to the gym when your day is over before you relax and just kind of you're on the clock, you keep going. There are pros and cons to both. If the pro to working out doesn't outweigh the cons, why do it?
Right.
And you won't do it unless the pros do outweigh the cons, because why would you?
And then okay, so I see. So that's why it's important to bring up the cons That way you could do that weight. I see. Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And just acknowledging that there are cons for anything
Mhm.
that we do. It's not because we're bad people. I'm weak and I can't. No, there are reasons to not do even good things. And we don't want to deny that. We don't want to acknowledge it. But hopefully the good reasons more than outweigh the bad reasons.
Absolutely. Gosh, that's good. Did you go to the gym today?
I'm going right after we speak.
Okay.
Right after I've got my sweatpants. You can't see I got my shirt, but I got my sweatpants on and I'm ready to go as soon as we're done.
That's awesome. Hey, when I get to New York City, you'll take me to the gym?
Yes, I will take you as my guest and we'll work do a good workout.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Mike, I really appreciate this piece was big for me to just because I just know who I am. And
Mhm.
unless I can change the way I think, I feel like I'm
Absolutely.
just wasting time. I'm just running on a treadmill kind of thing. And I knew this was a big piece. And we've been talking about this
Yeah.
for months now, actually. I'm
Yes. Yeah.
glad we got to finally connect and do this.
Yeah.
Uh, I do believe that this is going to change things. How often do you think it'd be wise to talk?
Well, that's up to you. I mean, obviously, when I work with people, when I coach people, it is either once a week or once every 2 weeks. It depends on the severity of the issue and depends on the time or what have you. Usually, when I'm working with people, it's once a week, once every other week. After a while, it can be every month, once a month, just as a check-in. But as we're developing skills and practicing and working on things, it's usually once every 2 weeks or once every week.
Yeah.
So whatever we can figure out time for and whatever works for our schedules is good for me.
Let's try every 2 weeks. Let's start with
Okay,
that.
yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And also I know you've trained in jujitsu, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like it hurts my knee and neck and back really bad. Is it?
Yes, yes. I think it's the martial arts piece that really kind of, it's yes, you feel that it's a fighting art and you feel it. But also part of it is getting used to it too.
Sure,
There are
sure.
people, and
Working
you'll
those
see this
muscles.
if you research, there are people that are in their 80s and 90s, and you've seen the softer martial arts, the Tai Chi, where people are slowly moving, and a lot of older people in China, practice that. So as you get more practice, it does feel more formal, and you get more limber, and it really is a great workout as well. Martial arts, as in addition to having a practical value.
It seems like an incredible workout, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
If you don't mind me asking the last question, when you go to the gym, what kind of time do you spend there?
I decide that I'm not going to live there. I know some people are gym rats. I try not to. I try to do a good 35 minute workout. I don't want to do it more than 45 minutes. If I can do it for a half an hour and get a good workout, I do try to alternate between weights and cardio. But I know that if I spend like an hour there, I know I'm going to be stuck there for an hour. That's not going to work for me. So a good half an hour, 35 minutes of weights or cardio, and I kind of alternate. And I do try to go at least 4 days, if not 5 days a week. So I do go quite a bit, but if it's only for a half an hour, 35 minutes, it's doable. I can fit that into my schedule.
It's great. And I see now, because obviously if you go an hour, because then the negatives are outweighing the positives at that point.
Right, exactly,
Yeah. I
exactly. Yeah,
like
I
this.
want it.
Man, that's good stuff, Mike. You're
Yes,
pretty smart. I'm glad you're my friend.
the mental piece is really important. So I'm glad you're bringing that up. It's not just the physical, right? It is the mental that can do us in if we're not careful, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I mean, and I knew I knew the way you were going to help me was the mental. Because I so far I've not asked, well, what workouts do you do, or what do you recommend for? It's just all about how
Yes.
can we change our mind to become athletes? Because the difference between, I think, a 400-pound guy that can't get off the couch and an athlete at the top of his game, I believe, is just all in the head.
It is absolutely. It is the mental piece that really makes the difference. And especially even if you see two great physical athletes, the one who has an advantage is the one that has that mental piece.
Mm-hmm. True
Yeah.
that. True
Yeah.
that. Well, Mike, I always appreciate you. You're such a dear
Oh,
friend. I always thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in New York City in person soon.
well, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to speaking to you about this again.
Absolutely. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you, I'll put your phone number best. Is that down below, or what would you
Yeah,
like?
you could put, you could put the website
Okay.
that I have, and you can also put the email, my professional email. I'll give it to you. I know we have personal, but I can give you that professional.
All right. So anybody interested in chatting with Mike, that link is below. I can vouch. I've known you for how long have we known? We at least 2009.
I think
Yeah.
we started working 2000 September 2010. We started in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when we opened up that school.
Mm-hmm. So
Yep.
since then,
Yes.
you've been a tremendous help to me, and that's just how I could share. I know you got some good stuff in your brain there. I know
Well, I
to be true.
appreciate that, and I'm excited to see your journey on this too. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, me as well. All right, well, I'll keep talking to you, Mike.